thank you to the committee for having this hearing today to highlight such an important issue. As we know, the opioid epidemic has wreaked havoc across this nation. I represent the North Country, which is a district in upstate New York, and we've seen an exponential increase in deaths related to the heroin and opioid crisis. And many of my local law enforcement, many of my counties, many local advocacy groups have come together to really foster these types of conversations in the local communities. My question, and I wanted to direct it to Ms. Minor to start with, I've met with so many families impacted, whether it's a recovering addict themselves, whether it's a parent who's lost an adult child, whether it's healthcare professionals, or whether it's principals and teachers. My question to you is, yes, it's important to educate our youth about risks associated with drug abuse, but I also think it's important that parents, teachers, guidance counselors, employers, managers have resources and understand what the best practices are so they can identify this early enough to help an individual seek care. Can you talk about what resources you wish you had and what best practices there are out there?
I wish that we had more beds available. When Dr. Wen had mentioned earlier about when a parent is ready and they say that they're ready to quit, it takes a lot for a parent to be able to come forth and say, I can't do this anymore, I need help. And then for them to be told, we have nothing for you, you're gonna have to wait weeks, or sometimes you have to wait months. I have seen way too many overdoses because of the parents that are waiting. They go back to what they know, and that is the substance use to make them feel better. We absolutely have to educate everyone that is involved with this person's life, whether that be the schools, the employers, the community resource centers, anyone who comes in contact with this family. We have got to educate them and really talk about what it might look like. You know, if little Johnny's getting to school later and later, or he's missing more and more school, could there be a problem? And how the schools or whoever's coming in contact with this family can approach that child without it feeling like it's an interrogation or feeling like they've done something wrong or that they're too afraid to tell on their parents.
Let me ask you about the flip side for a parent being able to identify in their child, let's say a high school age child. I met with a recovering addict who was a nationally recognized athlete and had an injury. She went through an operation and was prescribed pain medication. That led to a downward spiral of addiction, in and out of jail, and she was a very powerful advocate about how she was very good at hiding it, she said, and her parents didn't know, her coaches, weren't aware of this issue. How do we educate the parent in that situation when the parent's not the addict, but they're the parent of a child who is the addict?
I would say we've got to break the stigma about addiction. Everybody looks at addiction as a really bad, dirty, ugly thing, and they don't look at that it could be something that's being prescribed, especially to our children, by their doctor, because we trust these doctors with our children, and they sometimes are the ones who are overprescribing our youth. And it's really about educating the parents and sitting down and talking to the parents about, differences in what their attitudes or their behaviors might be like, how they're reacting to things. I know that in my own experience that when my daughters had started in their active addiction, their behavior towards me changed. They became more aggressive towards me and wanted to argue with me about a lot more things than what they did prior to that.
And Dr. Cox, if you could follow up from a school's perspective, how do principals, teachers, coaches, guidance counselors, how do we arm them with the resources and the education they need to identify when a student is going down the path towards addiction?
Well, again, it's a part of comprehensive education effort, and that's a part of our total health curriculum that starts in elementary school where we talk about this. And we have the DARE program at 5th and 8th grade, but also it really gets intense in our high school health class where we have actually recovering addicts who speak to our students. Our sheriff comes in and talks about all the things that he has seen. So we try to give them the best information that we can so that they can at least be forewarned, you know.
So the students are forewarned, but how about teachers? Not the health teacher, but the average teacher in the school. Do they have the resources
Well,
and the
let me
education
give you an
they need?
example of that. This, you know, we have made it part of our professional development. This year, at the beginning of school, we convened an opioid panel of community experts, and we actually recorded that. So it's been made available for our schools to use to show our teachers. That gives them the facts and information. And then
Thank
also,
you. My time's expired.
Yes.
I'm sorry about that.
Sure.
Thank the gentlelady. Time's expired.